Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Facebook Live about the zone of awareness. Now, the zone of awareness is a tool that we have in Access Consciousness. Sorry, I had the microphone way over there. I didn't even realize it. Sorry. So, the zone of awareness is a tool that we use in Access Consciousness with animals mostly. It came about when Gary Douglas, who's the founder of Access Consciousness, was working with horses. And what he realized is that the horses have a zone of awareness that basically is a place in which they can perceive their environment with ease. Now, in Access, we also talk about being an infinite being. And being an infinite being has nothing to do with the zone. The zone is a finite space that we can more or less define. People have it too, but also all animals have it. And when Gary discovered it, it was when he realized that, for example, a horse that has a rather large zone, let's say a stallion or the lead mare, who is responsible for the herd, when you ride them and your zone is smaller than theirs, the horse is always a little bit on the edge because it is always assuming that you do not perceive everything it is perceiving, so it needs to be in charge. Now, you're sitting on top of the horse, so you're supposed to be in charge where things are going, not the horse necessarily. And I don't mean like from overpowering or any of that, but really more from a standpoint of like you're going for a ride. You want to be in charge where you're going, and so basically what Gary discovered is that it helps a lot when you are getting on your horse, that you are increasing your zone of awareness to be larger than the horses. Now, people might say, well, how do I do that? It's actually much simpler than you think. You literally just ask for it. And what you have to be aware of is that your zone of awareness is really that space around you that you're willing to be aware of, like things that are going on, um, people approaching, energetically also what's happening. And some animals allow themselves to have a larger zone than us. The first time I stood next to this one horse, Deseable, who is Gary's horse from Costa Rica and is a Costarricense de Paso, and he's a stallion. And the first time I stood next to him and I was perceiving how large his zone was, and then I was making mine larger than his, or at least I was asking for that, and I immediately got dizzy. It was so strange. I was not used to, my body was not used to that much space and spatial awareness. And so I was really like, whoa, okay, this is quite different. Now, when you are a horseback rider, I highly recommend that you do look for that and you start asking for that, for your zone to be larger than the horses, just so that the horse has some relaxation while you're out there. Because if it's perceiving your zone to be larger than theirs, that means you are aware of everything that might be coming at it. And horses still function from the point of view that anything could jump out of the bush and eat it. And so, for the most part, they want to be aware of everything that's going on around them. But if you're in charge of that and if you're aware, then they trust you more than if your zone is way smaller than theirs. So this is a really important tool when you're going horseback riding. Now, the zone of awareness can also be something that when you have dealings with an animal um, that is constantly spatially weird, like it runs into things, it falls over things, even over its own feet, or you reach out to pet it and it basically shivers when you touch it as if he hadn't seen you coming. That could be a collapsed zone. Now, this is interesting too. Well, how do we know if a zone is collapsed? We can just ask for it. So truth is, the zone collapsed, yes or no? It's that easy. You just can ask that question. Now, it's also very easy to expand the zone. And so if you have an animal that has a collapsed zone, Just know that the zone originates basically from the head. And so you put your hands towards the head of the animal. You can be a meter away or even further, 3 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, it doesn't matter. And you're just asking the palms of your hands to lock into the zone of that animal. So you just stand there and you go just like click, basically. And then you pull on it. You actually pull on that zone of awareness and you pull it out. Now, a lot of times when you do that for not a very long time, under a minute, you can perceive all sorts of things like, some people perceive it like, oh, it's like a bubble that bursts, or all of a sudden, oh, the energy is just over, or oh, now I'm done. Um, it's literally that simple. And so you can practice that because you can't actually do anything wrong. Like if an animal does not have a collapsed zone and you do this exercise, you will not destroy their zone with this. So you can practice that. But I want to encourage you to ask this kind of question, is the zone collapsed? And then do this simple exercise. Now, a lot of animals that we've done that with, literally within 24 hours, have changed the way they are showing up in the world. We had this one horse, beautiful, beautiful dressage horse, um, was trained really well, was going really well, and kept falling over his feet. And so people kept constantly, saying, what is wrong with this horse? What's going on here? And we expanded his zone. And the next day he was so sure footed. It was beautiful to watch him. And so it can literally be just that. It can be that simple. Now, how does a zone get collapsed in the first place? Well, this could be anything, literally anything. It could be lightning. It could be a shock that an animal receives. It could be an actual electrical shock, like from a fence. It could be that. It could be any kind of trauma, which doesn't have to be big and traumatic. It could be a small thing to us, and to the horse, it was a huge thing, or to the animal. So please be aware this may be more common than you think. This particular issue may be a more common issue than you think in some animals. But again, the one thing that you notice with them is that they just don't feel like they are sure in their environment. They always feel like there's something off. Like I said, they run into things or whatever it might be. And it's not that obvious. They're not running into things with head on, but they stumble across something, or as they're cutting a corner, they hit themselves instead of really clearing it. It's more like that. So, and the difference because it also has a certain sense when the zone is collapsed. And some people actually think, which is really interesting, there's these classes out there called Talk to the Animals, where we talk about this and where we practice this, and where we use the animals that we have in the class to practice on. And a lot of times I used to ask people, so how do you perceive the zone of this animal? And the funny thing is, the ones that had a collapsed zone, the participants would often say, oh, this animal has a huge zone. I can't even perceive the end of it. And so I thought, okay, this is interesting, because when I asked the question, this animal's zone is actually collapsed. And so what I realized is, asking, is the zone collapsed, is a much better way to go about it than trying to perceive the size of the zone and then trying to figure out if it's collapsed or not. So just ask, is this zone collapsed? Yes or no? And that is really the easiest way to get this, and to then also be able to say, okay, cool, well, I have a tool for that. Let's play. So again, like when you are riding in the zone with a horse, you really are going to notice a difference. The horse will be calmer with you. The horse will be more connected to you. There are so many other tools also while riding, and I highly recommend too, if you are an avid rider, that you maybe check out the class called Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider, which is another access consciousness modality where you can find a lot of tools that make you and your horse have a better connection and more fun with each other. And this, what I'm talking about, is the Talk to the Animals branch of Access Consciousness, where we're using all these wild and wacky tools from Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here and everybody else who's been contributing to Access for a long time, to give you a better relationship to your animals, to open the door to a communication with your animals, and to give you just a different sense of what it is like to receive from animals, other than your traditional, let's just call it that, your traditional animal communication class. This is very different because the tools of Access are wild and wacky and weird, but they work. And so with these tools, we can really make a difference in the animal's life, we can make a difference in your life, and we can make a huge difference in the relationship you have with animals. So these are just short little invitations to tools, and the zone is just that quick a tool. And so thank you guys for watching, and thank you for your thank yous. And yeah, we'll see you somewhere else next time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and please play with the zone. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, you also have a zone of awareness. Did I mention that? I think I mentioned that in the beginning. Please be aware you have a zone of awareness. So start to also look at, yeah, of course I did mention that because I asked you should make yours larger than the horses. Duh. But really, how big is your zone? And are you willing to have a bigger zone? Are you willing to be a bit more uncomfortable and enlarge your zone? How big are you allowing your zone of awareness to be? And especially if you're inside a building, are you only allowing it to be inside the room you're in? Or would you also be willing to allow it to expand out further than that? Now, again, this is different from the infinite being. You, as an infinite being, are infinitely big. You are larger than this planet. You are out there in the universe. You are huge. The zone of awareness is that space in which you are willing to be aware of the environmental stuff that is going on. Your awareness exceeds your zone of awareness. Just also, or exceeds the zone, I should say. I just want to clarify that. So your awareness can be larger than that. You can get awareness from anywhere in the world, but the zone is a defined space in which it's more like about you perceiving a person coming, or you're perceiving the wind changing, or whatever it might be, a sudden drop in temperature, whatever it might be that's going on around you. That is more what the zone is about. Okay, I hope I didn't confuse you more, but actually gave you a little bit more clarity. So please play with this tool, especially also with the animals, and hopefully I will see you somewhere else soon. Bye everybody, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.